Hey guys, welcome to G1 Coder. Today we are going to learn about safety codes in lathe. These safety codes safeguard the lathe from crashing and prepares the lathe for the upcoming operations by setting the dimensions and the feed rate of the lathe throughout the program. Here these safety codes mainly should constitute four types. First one is programming type, and the second one is plane selection, and the third one is dimension, and the fourth one is cutter compensation throughout the cycle. Here, the next line of safety code is for feed. It is not mandatory to keep the safety code of feed in the safety line of code, but it is a healthy practice to keep these feed G code in the safety line of code. And let me explain what are the codes for these parts. The first one is programming type. There are two programming types in lathe. First one is absolute programming and the second one is incremental programming. The absolute programming is indicated by G90. Let me tell you about what is an absolute programming. In absolute programming, let us consider this is a workpiece. We want to make a step turning. In absolute programming, let us consider the length of this is 5 mm and the length of this is 5 mm, and here this height is 5 mm and this is 10 mm. In absolute programming, we will give the dimensions x10, z-5, x15 and z10. Why we will give like that? In absolute programming, we will enter the whole dimension value. It means we will add the before operation value in the present operation code. So for this length, we will in the code we will give the z value of the whole length. Okay, that is absolute programming. The next type of programming is incremental programming. In incremental programming, we will give the point to point dimensions. For example, we will start our cutting operation here. We will give x10 and z-5. After completing this, for the next line of code, it will consider this as the 0 position or the origin position. From here, we want to give the code x5 and z5. Okay, if you won't give like x5, if you give x15, that it will move a 10 mm above the workpiece in incremental programming, because at the end of each cut it will take its endpoint as its new horizon. Okay, that type of programming is called incremental programming. And the next one is plane selection. Generally in lathe we have only one working plane, that is XZ plane, but in case of some milling CNC machines we will have three working planes. Those are XY plane, YZ plane and XZ plane. If our working plane is to be restricted with XZ plane, we will use G18. Why this G18? If we keep this safety code G18, if there is in the CNC program, accidentally we have written some Y dimensions, then this G code will safeguard us. There is no Y selection or the Y working plane in the CNC lathe machine. By this G18 code, it activates that only X and Z dimensions should be given in the code. If we accidentally given a Y dimension, it won't accept and a warning will be shown. For that purpose, we will use G18 here. In the same way, G17 is for XY plane and the G19 for XZ plane. The next code is safety code dimension. Here, the units of dimensions. Here we are considering it as 10 and 5. We give the units in the safety code. There are two international standards of units in CNC machine. Those are inches and mm. Those two units are indicated by these G codes. This G20 is for inches and the G21 is for mm. Most of us we will consider mm in our Indian standards, so we mostly keep G21 as the safety code. And the next line of code is G40 Cutter Compensation. Here, this cutter compensation plays a crucial role in radius tools. For suppose in lathe, most of us use a single point tool. But despite of a single point tool, if we use a tool with some radius, okay, with some radius like this. For this tool, its center point is this. For our machine, our line of cut is this. If we give an radius of 10 mm, this will also consider from here 10 mm, so that an excess material will be removed in the turning operation or any other operation. To eradicate that, we will add a cutter compensation. Here G40 is cutter compensation cancel. That means there should be no cutter compensation, so that the center point of the tool is considered as the whole length from the axis of the workpiece. Okay. And the next one is G41, cutter compensation left. That means our cutter cutting direction is leftwards, so that we will use this cutter compensation left, and we will keep our radius value and give some value to how much offset it should be given. As it is 10 mm and this radius value is 2 mm, so we should give this 2 mm with X41, so that it will cut only 10 mm along the length. Then after is G42, which is cutter compensation right. If the cutter, it means tool, moves in rightward direction, if we want to make some compensation with the nose radius, so we will use G42. And the next line of safety code is G94. As I said earlier, it is not mandatory to use G94 in the safety line of code, but it is a healthy practice to use the feed units in the safety line of code. The feed are determined by two G codes. There are two types of feeds in the CNC machine. Those are feed per minute and feed per revolution. These two feeds. The G94 indicates feed per minute. That means here we have given the dimensions mm. So here the feed value will be mm per minute. If we have given the dimension inches, then here the feed value will be inches per minute. That means the tool per minute move a certain inches. And the next line of code G95 is feed per revolution. That means it will be mm per revolution and inches per revolution as per the dimension G code. Thank you.